Okay, so I've got this project note here, and the intent is to generate monthly progress update to share with the community using the Smart Connections and Smart Connect tools. So it helps to know that I keep a lot of tasks like this. DO kind of is a double entendre. It, for me, is an abbreviation for desired outcome. That's why you'll see all of my tasks are written with a past participle to start. And when I'm done with the task, we'll just do tested task for video, and then marked it off as complete, and then I hit this command here and you'll see archived one task. That's a cool plugin. If you're unfamiliar, the Archiver plugin by Ivan Lednev, very good. I like it. But what that does is that you can see it remove the task, puts it in another note with all of my completed tasks under the heading from the source note. So the heading is the name of the source note, and it also adds a little completed metadata so that we can do something like this. Dataview. We've got task where I think it's completion. So we're gonna do task date. You know what? There's an easier way to do this. This is what I like to do for a lot of my Dataview work. I'm just going to search using the standard Obsidian search. Let's see. Maybe we need to use the quotes. Okay, so there we go. So just do a quick search for things you know that were in a past Dataview. Which one of these do we want to swipe? Okay, looks like that'll do the trick, where date, modified time. So we're not using this exactly, but you'll see here in a second. Now, let's just close that out. So task, we're going to switch out that M time. So this is the note's modified time. We're going to switch that out. Like I said, I think it's completion. Let's just check this real quick. Let me break that so it doesn't go haywire. No, it might have went haywire anyway. Okay. Let's check out journal. And I've got this little check mark here for all my completed tasks. Okay, and you can see completion. Now let's head back to that other note, since we know completion is the value or the variable we want. Okay, so where the completion date is greater than 60 days seems a little long. Let's go back 30 days. Cool. May 11th, that checks out. It's not really sorted, so let's see if we can quick sort it. Might not matter, but sort completion ascending. May 11th, 13th, that looks like it did it. Okay. So now we completed that action. Completed tasks last month. We can just rename this too. Completed tasks last month. And now we generate the report. Let's see what we can do using the GPT, the Smart Connect GPT. You can see I have Smart Connect running down here. We can open up the console log so that when things inevitably go haywire, we can see why they're doing so. Now, I copied the name of the note. So, while it's not the easiest, I find this is a real quick way to just get the GPT to give you what you want. Just copy the name of the note. Extra points if you throw .md on the end of the note and put it in quotes. That will really make sure the GPT knows what you're looking for. And I started this little My Context Assistant GPT. It's very similar to the Smart Connect Obsidian GPT, but hopefully if I just do something like this, like type in that, let's see what it does. So it should definitely get the content, but what I wanted to do is just say ready for next instruction. Ready to be used as context. That's great, because that's what I wanted it to do. Though, retrieve the note. It seems like it did a embedding lookup rather than just read the note that I thought I very explicitly put there. And I also want to make sure that Dataview got rendered. We can check if the Dataview got rendered. Chances are it got rendered because it's saying string is too large. And this is really not, this text up here is not that much, so it would have easily been able to show whether, or it would show the full note in that little text area if the data view was not rendered. Okay, so now that we have the context, I'm just going to remove that GPT. You know, you can, if you're not familiar, you can hit the @ sign and pop up the various GPTs you have to use, but I just removed that. Let's just say help generate a brief report based on the completed tasks. So this first one, clarified user job for smart connections. That's an interesting label, but defined core value proposition for users, focusing on practical benefits rather than technical features. That's just great advice for when you're trying to get people to use your software. You know, I could sit here and tell you about all of the dimensions and embeddings and the ease of switching between APIs, but I think that you'd rather just know that Smart Connections enables you to leverage AI with your notes. Let's just keep it simple. So, I was working on how I can do that. Fixed Anthropic API key issue. Man, I think this might be getting a little more granular than I like. Let's see how many of these. 15. Okay, well, I'll try to quick go through. Fixed an API key issue. It happened. If it affected you, I'm sure you're happy. Let's move on to the next point of the progress report. Enhanced node focus in Canvas. Interesting. Not sure about that. Maybe can we do will this work on the Dataview? Needs, no. I guess that the find feature does not work with Dataview. Oh, you know what? That was referring to in version 2.2, the canvas is used as chat history. It's pretty cool. We can just say hello. Let's just go with that. Who am I? So now, just a quick seeing what that is. We can open up this button opens up the history note, and you can see here, instead of having in a standard markdown note, we have each message, including this is what GPT sent to Smart Connections in order to retrieve these notes to use as context. Not quite, but yeah. The next one, refined Dataview for next actions. That's interesting because this piece of progress implemented a more streamlined system for handling needs Y or what done looks like. Okay, so I've been working on making sure I include those pieces of information in each of my project notes. But let me quick show you my next actions note. So, I've shared my standard operating procedures, I think, before, but of my projects list. That's how I got to this video, is I had a project. This is a project note, this top part here, and when I come to my next actions list, it either needs to be done or reprioritized or clarified. So, I saw this note and I said, okay, let's record that video, record a self-generating weekly progress report. I guess that should more accurately be monthly. So next actions. This note is constantly being evolved. Just recently added that projects list actually. That's a data view for pulling in next actions from a variety of notes. There's some prioritization involved. Just a quick note, I like to use the group by feature. You can, write some logic to generate a number. You can see here, like, what that looks like is if the task contains an asterisk, which means I italicized a part of the task. You can see here tested, SOP, implemented, all of these are italicized, so it adds priority. This says 15 tasks, but it's not actually 15 tasks, it's really 15 score priority. So I guess I can probably just quick change that right here. Put a hyphen instead of that, so it more accurately represents that it's a score for priority. Then it drops down, and that 5 lines up the number of tasks here. Close, four tasks, but besides the point. Keeping the next actions data views up to date is an ongoing process that it changes as my system changes, which is constantly. But let's move on to the task at hand. So, improve Gemini model integration. That just happened. That was actually just the other day. I should have said redo with timestamps. Okay, so now we have timestamps. That is nice. Hopefully that adds enough context. I don't know where that came from. Maybe we should take a look over here. Okay, yep. So I just fixed another issue with Gemini the other day, so I was confused. But yeah, for time's sake, the Gemini model gets worked on. Okay, let's close that up. But continuing with the GPT progress report. Okay, yeah, so I can quick show you that. I really like the way Cursor does their AI changes. So this is a little feature that is inspired by how Gemini does it, which is it's just a pretty nice little UI. Green for the new stuff, red for the old stuff. You can accept or reject over here on the side. Okay. Next, enhanced presets for vault switching. So that's referring to, we have here in Smart Connect, we now have this select existing smart environment or create new smart environment. Everything below, all of the settings below this until you reach global settings, all of these settings are specific to the smart environment, which can be quickly changed. You see we have default profile 2, so it changes. You can see the vault folder changed to island life. But yeah, we'll go back to default because that's what we're using now. But yeah, that smart environment changing profiles for that is new in the past month. Smart Connect free to use. So as you can see, I'm connected here to the smartconnections.app. But this is at the heart a software that's supposed to be accessible. So I recorded the first video showing you how you can use a third-party service to connect Smart Connect to ChatGPT for free. There was actually a GitHub message the other day on the Smart Connect GitHub that basically implied that there's actually another service you can use. So while the service that I recorded the video with was Local Tunnel, the other service is Cloudflare. And a lot of people are familiar with Cloudflare, so I asked the person that mentioned that's how they're connecting Smart Connect to ChatGPT. I asked them to share, more about their process. So hopefully I'll get a response from them soon, and then I'll share that with you guys. But yeah, so improved Smart Change UX. We just went over the UI change. So we'll move on to the next one, Smart Collections Adapter Pattern. So the Smart Collections module is a part of the JS Brains open source project, which is a project that I started by pulling out various components from smart connections to create open source projects or open source NPM node modules. If you are familiar with JavaScript, you know what I'm talking about. If you're not familiar with JavaScript, then you can skip ahead 30 seconds. But the idea is that I have some particular principles I stick with when I'm developing smart connections. One of those is minimizing dependencies, and it's very tough. If you're looking for a dependency, it's very tough to find the dependency you're looking for where they're not bringing in 100 other dependencies. And, dependencies are essentially other people's code, and in my Obsidian, I do not want any more people's code than I need. So a lot of these dependencies that people use to connect to the AI and to handle really simple things, they bring in these extra dependencies, which means untrusted code, which is just a non-starter for me. So especially with ChatGPT writing code so well, instead of using these essentially insecure pieces of software that introduce security risks, I'd rather just write the code from scratch. With that, I have created at least a half a dozen modules at this point that other JavaScript developers can use to build an AI application. The focus right now is this smart environment, which is basically a place where you can bring in your choice of these modules to achieve what your goal is. So you don't always need embeddings, you don't always need the chat, and there's some other cool things like re-rankers that you might be using exclusively. But that is, the smart environment contains these modules I'm referring to, and then Smart Collections is the module that actually saves your data to your computer. So there's collections of things. It's that simple. I call them items in the module. So you have collections of items, and each collection is something that you want saved. So then there's the adapter pattern, which is if you're using Smart Collections in Obsidian, there's an Obsidian adapter. If you're using it in Smart Connect, then it has an adapter for the file system that Smart Connect uses through Node.js. And if you wanted, you could create an adapter so that this data is persisted to SQLite or in some other format. That's the adapter pattern. And Smart Collections was refactored to use that pattern. And also all of the other modules that are in the JS Brains project will at least eventually have that adapter pattern implemented. My goal is to, or my principle besides minimizing dependencies is also to minimize the scope of each module. So each module has its things that it does, and then the other thing besides those explicit methods that it provides is providing these adapters. So what that looks like for the chat module is there's an adapter for each platform that provides the chat models: OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, etc. And also, of course, local models. So for embeddings, same thing. For the smart collections, like I said, the different methods for saving to the disk. Then we have smart entities. Adapters will be an adapter for notes. An entity is, the smart entities is what provides the embeddings or integrates embeddings with source data. yeah, that's a little bit of an introduction to JS Brains. I'm going to go a lot more into that soon, but let's finish up this progress report here. Implemented local re-ranker. So I started on that. It's not finished yet. I ran into a couple snags with the implementation. I wanted to implement the local transformers package using a worker instead of the hacky iframe that the chat or that the embeddings are currently implemented in, but it doesn't work in an application like Obsidian, so I had to move on from that. The re-ranker will be available locally in Obsidian and through the Smart Connect app. It just isn't yet. Right now, version 2.2 of Smart Connections can use re-rankers, but you need to use the Cohere API. And, it works great, but I know having a local option is a necessity for a lot of people, so the local option will be available soon. Mobile for Smart Connections Obsidian plugin is here. That's number 12 in the progress report. A lot of people were excited about that. It's still very much in beta, and that's why it's in the version 2.2 early access. But I'm happy that mobile is now working. That is one of the positive effects of what I was mentioning with minimizing dependencies. What it's likely you don't know unless you've developed an Obsidian plugin is that all of the dependencies that I've been referring to, for the most part, do not work on mobile. So unless you've written all of the code, or you have a way to bundle all of the code, which there are ways to do that. Most Obsidian plugins do not end up working, because even if you bundle all of that code, if they rely on a certain type of way of accessing the file system, which isn't the Obsidian way, the plugin won't work. So yeah, if you're wondering why you don't see more mobile compatible Obsidian plugins, that's why. Smart View filters, that's pretty cool. That's right alongside the re-ranker. You can toggle on if you want to see how that works. You can see cultivating SC community is at the top there. I mean, that seems like a good one for generating these progress reports for the community, but let's see what happens after it gets re-ranked. It went from 88, that one's still 88, but you can see some other stuff switched around. And if we refresh again, we should be able to see the re-rank. So first progress tracking's next, then it switches SCOP progress reports. So what that is I started a note to generate these for myself. You can see December 2023. So I generated that progress report note when I was taking all of my completed tasks, which I used to keep in the note which they were completed in, but I wanted to get that out of the way because some notes had a ton of completed tasks and it was just a distraction. That's when I started dumping them in the single note that we looked at the beginning of the video. But yeah, that's actually a much, you can see how the re-ranker, once again, refresh, progress tracking second, now the progress reports, this is also a note about progress reports, makes a lot of sense. Definitely use the re-ranker and at least try it out if you're on version 2.2. But besides that, you have, you can toggle using include, exclude. Include filter will be the only results in the Smart View must match that filter. Similarly, exclude filter, they must match that filter. So I do not want to see journal entries at this point in the Smart View, so I have that excluded. Okay, so moving on to the next item. Improve Smart Embed performance. Yeah, so there were some some issues, with Obsidian. If you did things like activated and deactivated the plugin multiple times, which probably doesn't apply to most people, and that's reactivating without restarting Obsidian, then there were some memory leaks, which could eventually cause the Obsidian to crash, but that's probably pretty rare unless you're me developing the plugin and it's refreshing or reloading multiple times. Then those memory leaks become more noticeable. So that was good for me. Launched subscription service. Okay, well, this is, I guess, a good time to talk about that. So I haven't put much out there yet about the new Smart Connect official service, but I guess there's never a better time than now. Let's bring that up real quick. Actually, we can get to a link if we I'll just type it in here. Smart connections.app/smart connect. Okay. So up until now, the only way to use Smart Connect was to become a supporter, which had a minimum donation requirement. Now you can start using Smart Connect for $20 a month, or you can pay for the year, 20% discount, pretty standard. But basically, you get the same access to the Smart Connect for a limited time. Anybody that pays for the year, because that obviously helps me, so I can better plan, and know how well Smart Connect is doing, and that I can continue to spend full-time hours on this. So, which is my goal for the foreseeable future, and hopefully this service takes off and I feel even more comfortable, being able to dedicate basically all of my time to the Smart Connections project, the Smart Connect project, to developing the JS Brains open source, project, which is all of the inner workings of Smart Connect and Smart Connections, and making them available, because I think that it's really important for other developers to be able to create the type of software that Smart Connections is, which is a tool that enables individuals with all of this new AI stuff. There's so much AI stuff, and I think more developers need to be contributing software that is designed for individuals. I think obviously the number one software out there is software for businesses. Number two is software for other developers. I think right now it's in third place, but it really needs to be in first place, and that's software that enables individuals at an individual level. So that is the mission behind a lot of what I do, or maybe even all of what I do. But so when you subscribe to the official, this is the Smart Connect official service, and like I mentioned earlier, you can still use, have it here. You can set up your own connection from Smart Connect to ChatGPT for free. You do not have to use this official service. But if you use the official service, it supports the project. It supports me being able to spend more time to bring these ideas to reality. So, I really appreciate anybody who subscribes to the official service, because it's what powers, the supporters of Smart Connections, the Obsidian plugin. They've got me to this point, and I think that getting to the next level, I'm hoping that this service here, which you can find at smartconnections.app/smart-connect, and also you can find it, there's a link inside the Smart Connect software where you enter your license key. There's a link there. So, but the first 100 yearly subscribers, I'm considering you part of the supporter private chat. Basically, if you pay through this link here, in addition to your connection key, you'll also receive a link to access the private chat. And I'm really looking forward to how these users, since they're committed to using Smart Connect, at least for the next year, I'm really interested in how we can improve, make it better, how I can enable you to do things like make custom actions for yourself. There's going to be community actions where, just like in Obsidian, everybody has their own unique setup. Just like everybody has their own unique setup in Obsidian, you can, coming soon, install your own combination of custom smart actions that the community shares as what I'm going to call community smart actions. So very similar to the Obsidian architecture, we'll have core smart actions, which will be the very basic, read things, create things, update things, move things around. That will be what I consider the core actions. We'll have actions for the official Smart Connect GPTs. That will also be bundled in to Smart Connect. But then there's also going to be custom actions that are shared with the community. There'll be community actions, and they will be easily accessible through a list, just like Obsidian plugins are easily accessible. And that's the last point of the progress report. I think that this worked out nicely, but please let me know in the comments if you're interested in seeing more progress reports like this, or if my 37 minutes would be better spent elsewhere. I would like to know that too. So, thanks for watching if you made it this far, and looking forward to hearing from you. Bye.